Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kristen. Welcome if this is your first time stopping by. I've been seeing this whole video idea going around of your favorite book every month of the year so far, and I've seen it on TikTok. I haven't done it on TikTok, but I thought I would bring it here to YouTube. I'm sure there's people here on YouTube who have done it. I just honestly cannot think of any of them off the top of my head, but I really want to share the ones that I picked for my year so far, and some of them you've heard of, some of them you may have not. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. Okay, so we are starting off with January, and I actually had to look through my Goodreads to kind of remember like when I read each book. And I have one that I've talked about, but I don't think I ever did a full review on, and it is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I'm super excited about Wildfire, which is coming out very, very soon, but Icebreaker really broke me out of a early year kind of slump to get started because I was very intimidated by how many books I want to read. Honestly, I still am every single day, but this really got me started in the beginning of the year, really got me going, got me excited to read. And this book is relatively long. It is over 400 pages for a romance, which I have read over 400 pages with Lucy Score, but this is a, well, at the time, I think it was an indie published, and then she kind of got bigger, and then she got traditionally published. But this book is incredible. If you haven't read it already, it is about kind of a rivals to lover story about Anastasia and Nate Hawkins. Anastasia is a figure skater who, throughout a series of unfortunate events, has to share a ice rink with the hockey team, and Nate Hawkins is the captain of the hockey team. There's a little bit of a rivalry there because they don't really want to share, and especially Anastasia doesn't want to. And then over time, the partner to Anastasia, who I'm blanking on his name, gets injured, and Nate Hawkins steps into the role, and then romance blooms from there. So this is a really beautiful story, and it is really, really cute. Enemies to lovers. I ate this up. It is so good, and this was a 5-star for me. For February, it was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I did start this at the end of January and read it into February, but I wanted to give this a mention. I know everybody knows what this book is about at this point, but if you want a quick synopsis, it's basically about a woman in 1714 who doesn't want to get married and wants to escape and just have freedom, and so she makes kind of a deal with the devil. And unfortunately, it leads her to not have anybody remember her or remember her name, and nobody can speak her name. So it's a challenging life for her, but she kind of goes through life, and you kind of see all of these different aspects and challenges she has until one day somebody is able to remember her name, and there's a kind of mystery factor there, and then the story continues, and it is so good. I know a lot of people have like mixed emotions about this book, but I really, really liked it, and for me to not read a lot of fantasy, this was very urban fantasy, and I really, really ate this up. For March, this is gonna come as no surprise as I've mentioned it a million times, but A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is the best YA mystery thriller I've ever read. I want to continue reading stuff by this author. I know she has 5 Survive, as I've mentioned previously. I still need to read that, but this trilogy really is incredible, and I could not get over it. So what this story is about a girl named, what's her name? Andy, who back in high school, she goes missing, and people don't really know what happened to her, and they blame Sal, who was Andy's boyfriend in high school, on her murder. Now, skip ahead 5 years, Pip is doing a senior capstone project where she wants to investigate the murder. And so she investigates it along with a couple of her friends over time and uncovers some secrets that maybe don't want to be uncovered. So the story is really, really cute. It's really good. It's really kind of intense, very thrillery, but it's very, very good and an amazing YA novel, and I recommend the entire series. This was obviously a 5-star. The next book I've talked about briefly, but I really want to mention it, and this was for April, and it was French Holiday. I loved this book so much. So French Holiday is about a girl married to Luca, who her sister is marrying Mary's best friend, who she's been secretly in love with her entire time of friendship with him, and is very, very depressed on this day where she has to watch her best friend marry her sister. And she goes through a lot of emotions and she decides that she needs to get away, and she goes to the countryside in France that her great aunt, I believe, owns. And she runs into kind of an enemy, which is her best friend's best man, Noah, and they don't get along, and let's just say that it doesn't last long for them to be enemies. But this was such a cute read. It had so much beautiful landscape and artistry into like the visual explanations of the world and like the land, and I just really, really liked this story, and nobody talks about this author, nobody talks about this book, but I really want to recommend it, and I want more people to read stuff by her. She does have another book coming out in August. I think it's called The Space Between. I'm super excited to read it, but I highly recommend The French Holiday. It's a really great summer read, spring read, and it'll definitely get you in the mood for love. For May, I read The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan. I actually read this as an arc of her republishing with Bloom, and I decided I had to have the physical copy. I have not yet read The Rebel King, which is the sequel to this, and it is a sequel, not a standalone. And this follows a woman named Lennox, who is part of a native tribe and is going through issues with her tribe's land being taken over by oil and not being respected. And the oil's bigwig head is the father of a man named Maxim, who falls head over heels from the moment he sees Lennox, and there's obviously some issues there because two families that are not gonna mix well. Kind of almost Romeo and Juliet, but they do find each other, and there's a very quick romance, but then so much more ensues, and there's so much depth to the story. It is so good, and it really does end on a crazy, crazy ending, and I cannot wait to read the next book. So Kennedy Ryan is an incredible author. She researches every single story that she writes, and she tries to capture the essence and the most realistic depiction of these characters that she's trying to portray. And I have so much respect for her for that, and so this is an incredible book. I highly recommend. Now my next one is actually not a 5-star read for me, but it sticks out the most as my favorite read of June, specifically because I just felt like I could relate so much to the character, and so I wanted to mention this. I should say it was not a 5-star read, but it does not mean it's not a favorite. So that's why I would like to just say, in general, you do not have to have a favorite book be a true 5-star read. It can be a true 5-star read for you, or it can just be a 4-star. It could be an incredible book, but it just sits with you. And for that, it's one to watch. This is an older book. This is by Kate Stayman London. I believe she's actually a writer. This was her debut novel. This was written in 2020. And this is a very hard book to read if you are larger like myself, because it kind of opens all of the wounds. I don't like that word, but it opens all of those painful memories that you may have, or you still carry these kinds of thoughts with you day to day, and it really hits you. This book is about a girl named Bee, who is a plus size fashion blogger, wow, who one night is watching the version of Bachelorette, I believe what is it called on here? The Main Squeeze. She is watching The Main Squeeze with her best friend, and she's like live tweeting it and saying, you know, there needs to be more inclusivity, and her statements made such big headway that they had terrible ratings, and they get a new person to run the show, new showrunner. So then fast forward a couple months, and Bee is asked to be the Main Squeeze on the next season and have all of these men coming for her to, you know, obviously find love. And this just brings up a lot of like issues where, you know, they bring in men who maybe don't expect her to be the size that she is, and they make some really horrible, horrible things said. They just say some really terrible things, but they're honestly things that like us as bigger women think about and feel and believe, that these people really like think that poorly of us. But there's, of course, you know, there is a silver lining to this book, and it is beautiful. It is hard to read in certain parts, and I believe that's why some of the ratings are kind of lower, because they're almost like too hard to read. but it's not like super triggering unless you don't feel comfortable like kind of bringing up those kinds of emotions. This book really did, like, it stuck with me. Anyway, this was a 4-star read, and if you are, you know, easily triggered or anything, I would read up a little bit about the synopsis and maybe some of the triggers that go along with this book. But I would say that it's still very easy to digest, and yes, it may make you feel things, may make you hurt a little bit, but nothing that will leave you like uncomfortable. So those were my 6 books that were my favorites of each month for this year so far. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If there are any books that you got out of this that are maybe new to you, I hope that they go well for you. I hope you like them. Let me know if you guys have any of the same favorites as me. Let me know in the comments below what are some of your favorite books that you've read this year so far, and share them with me. I maybe have them on my TBR, maybe I don't. If there is a certain book that you know is on my TBR that I've hauled that you want me to read, please let me know, because I have had some serious decision paralysis lately, and I've been doing really well with my TBR jar, but there's still so much to do. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!